Welcome to the Conscious Experience. My name is Boris, and I'm here today with my great friend Mike. How are you, brother?
I'm feeling like a good boy today. How are
That's
you?
awesome. We want to welcome you to this channel where we share with you empowering and transformational perspectives on everyday topics and life situations. And today, you may guess by our background, we're going to be talking about good and evil.
I am excited for this one. I almost feel like I've been thinking about this for the last week, and I almost feel like this is going to be a pretty quick episode, but we'll see. I mean, there's so many small aspects of evil that we can tune into, but for the most part, I'm sure this will be another subject that we do multiple podcasts on. So, yeah, how are you feeling, brother?
I'm feeling great. I would love to maybe preface this by sharing from my personal perspective. I think that this is one of the most important topics to understand, to contemplate, and to be able to see through. Because this that we're going to be talking about today, if you are able to follow along and at least begin to doubt this idea that there is true reality in good and evil, you will begin to feel tremendous amount of freedom because our biggest oppressor is judgment, right? Like in many scriptures, they say, judge not lest ye be judged. We hear all of this in so many of the traditions. That mechanism of judgment is rooted in this idea of good and evil. So that's the kind of practical invitation, is to follow along with this sense of like, wow, maybe it's possible to transform this perception and not ever have to again fight and push and have this kind of like tug of war in that space of judgment where you think somebody is this something or other. You can just look at it and be like, oh, I get that. That's just that hypnotism of good and evil, but it's not really there.
Wow,
That's, I think, all I want to share.
I'm
Hmm?
excited for this episode because you use the word judgment. So I never use that in my perspective or analysis of this. So I'm excited to learn something as well. So do you want to start with definitions like we normally do? Maybe we can define what
Absolutely.
good is or what you think
Yeah.
good is. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's
And
think
maybe
about it.
many levels too, if you want.
I think that there's many levels. In essence, like one foundational level of good is that I like it. Typically, our experience of what we call good is our experience of this preference, that it is to my liking, whatever that may be. Sometimes, we can even work in certain hardships that are to our liking because we see that it's, let's say, building our character or serving some greater good. And we may say, okay, this is good. This is good. Um, what else? The other aspect of good is we associated this more religiously or spiritually, and we say like light versus darkness. We say like holiness versus unholiness. So that level of good, we're essentially saying that there is some kind of an absolute standard that things could be attributed to, and they say, okay, yeah, this one is good because against this absolute standard, it matches. It has certain characteristics that it passes. Kind of like this idea of Saint Peter at the gates of heaven coming in and saying to you, okay, well, how did you do? Let me check your record. That idea of good, the same idea that we actually transpose then onto Santa Claus. And then we have this like, how good of a kid were you? Are you going to get some bag of coals? Or are you going to get some gifts from me? So I would say that these are the general senses of good that are coming to me initially. How about you, Mike?
Nice. I will start, I guess, with the highest level of good and evil, my understanding, and then I guess what's maybe society talks about when they think good and evil. So for me, good is basically your experience of oneness, your recognition of unity or God, and evil is your idea or belief in separation, or whenever you experience duality or something other than the fullness of what you are. That's like my highest level understanding of it. But I would say on one level, good is just like doing the right thing. I use right thing, obviously, in bunny quotes, like you said last episode, or quotes. Um, Doing the right thing, which typically means it's shaped by society, culture, cultural, subjective beliefs. Um, so things like the Ten Commandments or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So not killing, stealing, speaking badly, whatever it is, which again are all forms of separation, in my opinion.
I love that you're bringing this because what you're sharing, like your highest perspective of good and evil, is actually not necessarily good and evil. It is the sense of it's almost the way out, because what we're talking about there is like the recognition of oneness precludes there being anything other than oneness. right?
Mm.
So it's like what we were saying is like the good is like knowing the truth, basically. And the opposite of that is ignorance. And we may call it evil, but ignorance is what the Buddha called it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Should we move on to evil? I guess we touched on a little bit on that.
Yeah. So evil then would be kind of the opposite. It's everything I don't like. It's everything that's not up to par to my own personal sense of, what is right and wrong. And it would be the category of sins. The sins meaning that you are not being holy. You're missing the mark of holiness. And so you fall into the sins of stealing, killing, lying, various different things like that. We might say, okay, that experience is the evil experience.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And yeah, I shared about evil. So yes, separation, basically anything that's against unity. So killing somebody, stealing something. And we'll get into what is like the reality. I'm not saying killing is a bad thing or an evil thing. Animals do it. So we're gonna touch on that later as well. So um why do you think good or evil exists?
Yeah, this is a great question. I want to maybe position it in the space of introducing one more perspective on this conversation that comes from the law of one. Law of one is, if our listeners don't know, this is a very prolific teaching. There's many books that basically explain the structure of the universe and the evolution of individual beings. The law of one differentiates very simply. They say no good and evil, no right and wrong, but there's two paths still. The duality is expressed differently. The one path is called service to self, meaning that I care only about myself, my own well-being. In a greater, more illuminated perspective, what we're really saying is all of this is illusion. And since all of this is illusion, I can do anything I want to it. The truth is that I am God, that I don't have anyone else to be accountable to. And so what I do with this reality, my reality, is completely up to me. So it's up to me if I want to use any resources, take from you, to use your life force for that is just my prerogative. And if I have the ability to do it, it's a free for all. So I am in service to myself. On
Okay,
the flip,
Hitler.
yeah,
We'll
perhaps
touch in on
Hitler.
those. Yeah.
Yeah, there's many different even moments. If we examine our ego, that is the basic premise of the ego, is it leads you to like very self-centered kind of thinking where the primary benefit is always to you. We kind of talked about this in relationship. When an ego gets into a relationship, it will make certain sacrifices provided that it perceives that it's receiving more back. So it's always this transactional, that it's good for me and it's in service of me. On the other side, we have the service to other path. So the service to other path looks at the same reality and says, all of this is myself. So I will be of service to the all that I am. So whatever I can do, whatever I can give, whatever I can offer, use me, send me forth. This is where I belong. This is mine. I belong here. You belong here. How can I serve you? Because you are just an aspect of me. So that's the path of service to other path. So when we're talking about, why is there good and evil? In essence, I would kind of look at this perspective is that it's like the good and evil lives only in one place, in my experience, and it lives only in what we call perception. Perception is our experience of reality. Like we may hold up, an iPhone here, okay, and we may have certain experiences with this, with Apple, with consumerism, with capitalism, and we may look at this and say, oh, what it's a symbol of, and we see that it's bad, we see it's corrupt, we see people, stuck in their phones browsing, and we say, oh, it's a symbol of, and so we have this judgment, this is bad. But the same experience, and it could be even the same person on a different day, or it could be a different person and say, look at this, wow, what an innovation, what incredible technology that allows me to communicate to you, that allows me to read, that allows me to access the libraries of the world, that allows me to expand my knowledge, that allows me to say I love you to people that I care about. And so we suddenly see, oh my God, this is good. But it is neither good nor bad. It is simply there. And what we do in our perception, we think that perception is happening this way, like everything is coming in and we're having this accurate download of data. Maybe, but to a greater extent, whatever is coming in is being interpreted by, let's say, our central processing unit. And we call this projection. We project out into the world that opinion, that perspective. Let's say that's good, that's bad. And I think that's why it exists, is because we perceive instead of know. We always are somewhat removed from the absolute knowing of whatever it is that we're looking at. We don't really know the essence of any one thing. We only know our perspective on it. And so in that perspective, we have this kind of slant, good and bad. I want to say one more thing here. There is a universal belief in good and evil. There is a universal hypnotism in which people think that there is reality in good and evil. It's like, and it comes to us primarily through our upbringing. There may be some rare ones who had some kind of a different upbringing that's even hard, kind of to imagine for somebody who has been brought up in do this and you're a good boy, don't do this and you're a good boy. Or if you do that, you're such a bad boy and you get punished and you get love withheld from you and so we kind of are brought up in this space that, oh my God, there really is good boys and bad boys. And I would like to be one who is favored because only the good ones receive love.
Nice. You touched on so many different things I want to talk about, which is great, like raising children, all of that kind of stuff. Something that came to mind is when you're sharing, yes, I believe you're right. Is it fair to say that reality is neutral?
Reality neutral also implies a state, right?
Yeah, okay.
I would say that reality is, but to call it any kind of thing besides what it is would be now a perception or perspective on it.
Yes. Yeah. So on one level, let's say just reality is neutral, and then the subjective experience of good and bad comes forth through thinking. So thinking makes it so. Thinking creates.
That's the famous quote, right, from Shakespeare. Nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so.
Yeah. And then heavens and hells are created all within the mind. So let me ask you, do you think not thinking, good and evil is a man-made creation? Like, I know you said it was universal, which makes sense, but like animals don't really experience good and evil, or at least we don't know if they do.
But so I don't know if animals experience this or not. What I'm referring to as universal is, at least for human beings, I don't know if there is. I mean, in many teachings they say that there's many beings beyond humans. Even if we go to very traditional, like Buddhist teachings, we get the sense that there's devas of the higher worlds, there's demon creatures of the lower worlds, there's hungry ghosts, there's all of these different experiences. I would say that in essence, this kind of goes back to this Adam and Eve story, right? Or any kind of origination story that basically says one thing. All of the origin stories say one thing. There was the pure, the beautiful, the perfect. Something happened. Now there is good and evil. Now there is duality. Now there is separation. Now there is some kind of a journey back towards that original state, the original face, the Buddha mind, whatever we want to say.
Let's go to, so let me see if I have anything on this one. So why do good and evil exist? I think from the tantric perspective, the poetic way of doing it is, again, I shared this on multiple episodes just to kind of ring it home, because I don't know who's listening to this or if we have new viewers, but basically God in the masculine form, stillness, oneness, unity, chooses out of his own free will, which is a topic that we did last episode, so check that out. Was free will or time? 2 episodes ago, right? Yeah. Creates duality, aka evil, or the separation, not for the purpose of war and killing and for further separation. I mean, I'm sure he takes it to very extremes, like fucking killing dead babies or like killing dead babies, but like dead babies, things that we experience in our reality that we would say is not back to the original source, right? Yes. So he does this for the purpose or the fate of falling back in love and remembering himself again. So good and evil, I mean, if we were to look at it as like the is it the Taoist perspective, the one that says they're just, oh no, the yin and yang. I don't know if that's Taoist. Yeah, it is.
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, one cannot exist without the other, which is also the tantric belief. So
Yes.
it's funny, it's not, I guess it's not really emphasized in Christianity that one cannot live without the other. It's more so just like focus on, yeah, moving
Yeah.
towards good.
This is beautiful because, but in Tantra, in the Eastern philosophies, I believe it is understood that this is a play, that this is Maya, that no matter how deep into separation Shiva goes and how much whatever things are happening, there's an aspect of Shiva that is never in the dream, that could not be in the dream, that doesn't even know of the dream. In Christianity, this is called the Godhead. And so there is some awareness, because if all that is went into this space that, yes, this dream of good and evil, this dream of separation is real, then there would be nobody to remember anything beyond that. And then this would be the only and the final reality. So in essence, we have this play. And so I want to introduce this conversation also in the space of the law of one. The law of one basically says all is one. So same idea. But it's like we are there is this divine matrix created. Same thing idea as like the Indian idea of Maya or Laila, which is the play, right? Maya is the illusion, but once you wake up to the illusion, you start to see it as Laila, which is the divine play. So
Leela.
Leela,
Yes.
sorry, perfect, Leela.
Lila is like a nice flower, which is nice, I think.
Nice. So it's similar in the law of one, which is basically this idea. Let's say that you and me, Mike, we are these infinite beings of choice, and we have everything that we need. And it's kind of like the Alan Watts idea of the dream, but we say, but hey, well, how about we do it together? And so let's say that an hour is a lifetime, and we can kind of hook up, let's say similar to his, maybe we just put on like our Neuralink or whatever we do, and boom, we open up into a world that is all kinds of ways. We can design it, or we can forget who we are. We can be eagles or lions or anything that we want. Well, to me, this sounds like the ultimate kind of amazing adventure. Like, it's incredible. I know that I'll come back to myself. I know that I am safe, but I can live a life that is completely unprotected as an eagle, as an animal, as an alien,
as a husband, as a father, in a relationship where you want to kill each other at some points, and create the furthest separation or the furthest evil, right? All in your mind.
Yeah, knowing at the same time that nobody ever gets hurt, nothing is ever lost, and I'll always come back right here where we are. And of course, there's this grotesque aspect of creation, of infinity, because if we really say infinity, we say, okay, well, that doesn't mean only the the sunny side is also this side where it's like it seems like the end of the world. And how far can we take it, knowing that nobody ever gets lost, knowing that everything is safe, knowing that I am in love with myself, and you're my friend, and even if we're in this virtual world and we have this like Marvel comics kind of style of battle that's destroying the universe, or whatever, it's just art, it's just for fun, it's just an experience. And so there's a foundational sense in teaching such as the law of one, that this is what this is. It's simply that kind of an experience. And so yes, go into this experience. You want to be good, you want to be evil, play it around, but the moment you want to wake up, you have to give this up. You have to give up this sense of believing in the world, believing in the game. It's almost as if somebody is on a basketball player, and then they're playing and playing. It's like, oh, this is just a game. I don't want to play anymore. Fair. Your choice. You don't want to play anymore.
That's intense. It's intense because I can see, like, that's an amazing perspective, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. I would love for our audience to move to realms where they understand and can experience this. But just taking a moment and like realizing, like you said, infinity on the darker side goes to war, goes to people being killed, goes to things that just don't make your heart feel very good, right? So it's crazy because I feel like I always say this, we're all in like this hero's journey. And on the hero's journey, like this epic movie of our life, this epic art, there's like the climax, which everyone loves or whatever. But there's also the point, probably before the climax, where they go into like, they hit something that just makes you feel. And I feel like every person has gone through the ups and downs of life, of course, but I
Mm.
always feel like there's going to be a higher high and a lower low in your experience, which will make that infinite experience of being a human being, whether it's like a heartbreak that you have never experienced before, or a death, or whatever it is, or a scene that you see on the news where
Mm.
you're like, oh my God, the world is actually climate change and everything is it feels like it's coming. It feels like it's all part of this natural flow of consciousness to forget and remember itself, which is, but I just want to take a moment for everybody that's experiencing separation and evil in their lives to, yeah, to let you know that it's real and it's going to
Yeah,
get real.
it feels real. It tastes real. It looks real. It's even gonna sound real, but there is a promise. There is a provision. There is a way where in the scriptures they call it 10,000 may fall at your left hand and 10,000 at your right, but it will not come near you. Only with your eyes will you behold the reward of the wicked, so to speak. This idea that there is, the Buddha called it, perhaps there's some correlation. The Buddha called it the middle path, to walk here in between the worlds, to neither choose one or the other, but to be, in Buddha's words, equanimous, equanimity. Equanimity means I don't give a hoot, not because my heart is closed. I don't give a hoot because this is illusion and this is illusion. This is an illusion of happiness. Here's an illusion of sadness and fear and death. Okay, no problem. No problem. I can watch this movie. I can watch this movie. I can see these movies. I can close my eyes. I'm safe. So, but there is this provision that there is a way of giving up this belief. And this is really important because the belief in good and evil is suffering. It is forever the conflict, right? Because what is true is oneness, like all is one. But if this one, let's imagine, just take a clear, easy example, our own mind. Isn't it very clear that it is one, right? It's my mind. Like you can't think my thoughts. You don't know exactly what's happening, etc. So I seem to have one mind. Who is it in here that's arguing? Like, who is it that's having this? No. Oh, she said that. Oh, and it's like, we've all experienced, I think, these states of turmoil, this inner conflict. How could it be? It's impossible because I have one mouth. Why can't I? How can I say something against myself? Well, apparently it is possible because when you are hypnotized, you can very easily have this splinter experience where you're talking with these puppets, but you forget. You're hypnotized to think that these puppets are, are, oh, this one is me. Oh, no, this one is also me. And it's like we have this argument, we have this separation, but there is a way. Like this is called clinically, it's called schizophrenia. So, but we are all to some degree schizophrenic. If you have ever experienced inner conflict and inner turmoil, it's like that's what it is. It's a split inside, in a split that cannot be real, a split that can appear real, feel real, sound real, but it's not. Right? Just like, for example, you and I right now can put on a show of like being deeply in disagreement about something and we can really fight it out. And then we can turn off, the recording and be like, oh man, well, that was a great one. So it seems real, but it isn't. So, this is the space of choice that we want to illuminate that it's not just choose good or choose evil. There is actually a choice beyond the two.
So for some reason, I was thinking Donald Trump and Joe Biden when you were speaking, and I was like, that goes to show you like the human subjective minds like unified in consciousness creates extremes of of characters that we experience and label as good or evil. So it's
Yeah.
crazy.
And
Um,
we totally project it because, when some people see, Joe Biden as the most evil and Trump is good, and then some see completely the opposite, and some see it, oh, actually, all of the government is evil. There is some secret government that is going to come out and be good. There's just like, it doesn't matter. We just find ways to project it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Do you think it's easier for most people, the majority of society, to be good naturally, as an inherent, like a Buddhist view of people being good, or evil? Which one do you think pulls us stronger in this day and age?
I think that we are going to be more drawn to the service to other path, which is the idea of good, right? Which is the idea that, like, let me make sure that um, I'm not taking more than I need. Let me make sure that other people's well-being and welfare are taken care of. You know, this is I think that like basically that's what that's is love, right? When we kind of, I mean, think maybe we touched on, or maybe we haven't. Someday maybe we should handle politics and talk about the different parties. That might be extreme though. Um, but basically, it's like we have this conditioning that we get from like our church or everything, right? We're conditioned to be good. And then there's this other side aspect, which is like, oh, but I want to do what I want to do. Oh, that's bad. But what this is freedom. This is the
Yes,
sense of freedom. This is the sense of love.
the
So,
apple from the tree.
yeah. So we have this sense, like, so the service to self, the being good, is the sense of love. And then the other part of the being service to, service to others is being good, but service to self and doing what I want is freedom. And there's got to be some space, and there is a space where both are honored. But until we see that, we will keep choosing sides, because it's like, well, at my cost, why should I give my taxpayer dollars? Why should I do all of this for other people, to like feed people who are, not working, lazy, or whatever they may have? So yeah, but I think overall our trajectory is that we more tend towards love, because love is much more, how can I say, uh, almost like, to me, it seems more tangible in our inner world. It's like it's hard to go against love, and feel like really enthralled in it. But I also understand that there's people with flip polarity, where it's like this sense of like freedom is what feels the most amazing, and love feels like some kind of weird like obligation limitation.
For when you were speaking, I was thinking of these people, or like Thanos, giving the example of that freedom or the want to help humanity, a service to others, but naturally through that, whether it's Hitler or something, the service to other seems to wreck or end half of civilization or like a lot of populations. Um,
But do you think that they are considering themselves a service to other, or is that just a, because this is a very interesting thing about Hitler, because Hitler was trying to create utopia,
yeah.
right? Like we all
So
know
I can
this.
name
Like,
4 other ones that I just learned about before this episode that had a similar effect I never knew about. Same archetype and same
yeah,
trajectory. Yeah.
yeah, maybe even like things like Alexander the Great, or maybe like, I don't know, Genghis Khan or whoever.
Utopia. Yeah. They're trying to
Yeah,
create it.
they're trying to create it, but in the name of that, and they want to wipe out people. They want to create utopia. We have to get rid of everything that who I don't consider to be good.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's create utopia. And in that jest, it's still service to self, but it's projected and talked about as this is for everybody's good. So that's my question, is like, is the essence service
True.
to self, or is and that space is just a propaganda placard, which is saying like, yes, vote for me, I will free you, or whether it's true that in their minds they actually think it's service to others, and they actually feel like this is good, and it's not my utopia, it is the utopia, so to speak.
Yeah, find balance. This is might be a side note, but our if our audience follows Marvel, my question to Boris is: was Thanos doing service to self or service to other? So I believe his story was his daughter or something like that. He wanted to build a stronger love connection with.
Yeah. So it was very interesting, and I really found that is a really powerful like psychological movie, because just to illuminate what that story is, Thanos was trying to prevent overpopulation, right? He was kind of feeling like what's happening is there's overpopulation and overconsumption, and this world will not survive at this experience. So he was seeking ultimate power to be able to
It
get
sounds
this.
like you're talking about Bill Gates, man. I
Well,
don't
yeah,
think
you see,
was
oh,
that
this
was that
ultimate power to be able to snap his fingers using this like powerful tool and take out half of the population to make it more in harmony. But yeah, it's just like the Georgia Guidestones, right? What we just recently heard. You know the Georgia Guidestones?
No.
Okay, the Georgia Guidestones were about a couple of weeks ago, they were attacked and demolished. This was a mysterious monument that somebody put up in Georgia that basically had this beautiful alignment. And when in a certain day, the sun just shone right through it, it illuminated this solar clock. It was so like cool. But in on all of the walls in, I think, 4 different languages, it was saying kind of these new commandments. Basically, the commandments are like this, to value science, to keep the population at 500 million in harmony with the earth, and like these other things like that, which basically had this sense of like, let me create utopia. I know how.
Jeez, 500 million. That seems like a lot. And then it also seems like a little when you think of what we've been told about how many people are living in this earth.
Yeah, I think it's about 8 billion now.
Boris, I want to do something that I think was great in our previous episodes, but kind of alter a little bit to add a little bit more value to our audience. So, my question to you would be, imagine I was your child and I didn't know anything about the world. And I want you to teach me about good and evil.
Okay. I would say to you something like this. As you go out and interact with the world, and as you hear even myself at times speak, it will seem as if there are these two sides. I might say that, something that when you're doing something I really don't like, I might say that you're bad. I might say, maybe I might even slip and say, oh, you're just being bad. You're being a nuisance. You're going to get the sense that you are some type of thing, and then in other times when I receive from you things I like, and then when I'm pleased with you, I might give you praises, and I might say you're good. I might say you're a good boy. And I might say it's things that make you feel like you are some type of thing that is favored. This is going to happen all over the world. When you hear people talking, you hear your friends talking, children, other children in school. This is going to be all over. And here's what I want you to know about that. I want you to know that this is a kind of a game that humanity is playing. This is a kind of like a hypnosis, kind of like a superstition or a belief. What I want you to know about it is that it's not real. It's based in the idea that we are all separate. This idea that we are all separate, meaning that we have no relation to each other. We don't have any responsibility for each other. We're not each other's keepers. You just do whatever we want. And of course, we have laws and different things to constrain our, basically negative behavior. But this isn't the truth. The truth is that because God is infinite, God's being contains all being within it, which means you and me, we are contained within this oneness. And if God truly is infinite, there is no room for something else. There's no room for something that God did not, so to speak, approve of in his creation of the perfect. And who, of course, it's the perfect because there's nobody else to judge because God is the one, right? And so we have this experience where, in truth, no such conditions are possible for there to be something good or something to be evil, something to be good or bad. The thing is that this is, like I said, a game that humanity plays. And humanity only plays it in forgetfulness of the truth of oneness. And we can find the truth of oneness if we remember about God. If we remember, okay, if God is right here where I am, that means God is also right there where Hitler is, right in his mind, right in the place where Hitler says I, where I say I, where you say I, where your teacher says I, where your mom says I, where Joe Biden says I. Every I is included in this oneness of God. So we are really all, just like the cells of our body, we are all intrinsically part of something greater, which is completely I was holding my hand up and Zoom recognized this as a gesture and raised my hand.
Double I, technology eyes itself.
Yeah, technology says also. So the truth of it is that I want you to please take this away from our conversation. Don't ever think of yourself as bad. Don't ever think of yourself as good. You are who you are. No matter what labels people put on you, know that it's just their way of talking. It's just their game. It's just their own way of navigating reality. They are, in essence, saying something that they like or they don't like. And that's all you'll ever hear from people. So this is what I think I want to leave you with, this understanding that good and evil are a play that humanity plays, and that you are neither good nor bad. You are just completely perfect, completely loved, completely intrinsic to what God is. And I love you. And if you ever have more questions about this, please come talk to me about it.
I wish I could turn myself into a baby.
Yeah.
Daddy punches you.
Yeah.
I
So
love
it's
that.
basically something like that. Yeah, basically just to somehow illuminate the fact that we are playing a game here. And the only way that this game can play out is if we forget who we are, if we forget that God is. The entire teaching of Christianity has to fall if they admit that God is what they say it is, which is the infinite, all-powerful, all-knowing God, omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient. Where is there room for anything but the one? So abiding in this contemplation actually is what begins to etch away on this idea of judgment, right? In Christianity is talked often about the judgment day, right? Which is like this idea that there's a final day where basically God is going to either decide whether you go to heaven or hell. But this is, again, a complete projection from humanity, because the judgment day, on judgment day, God is going to decide only the truth, right? And and the judgment day is actually today. This is it. And so the only thing that God can do when he beholds you, which is this emanation of his being, is to say, you are my beloved in whom I'm well pleased. All that I have is yours and always has been and always will be. I love you. So this is my sense about it. And it's so wild how we fall into this dream and we forget it, and we talk about God and we still believe in good and evil. We talk about spirituality, we still believe in good and evil. But the one way that we can exit it is never talked about. It's like this taboo thing. And it's perfect because without it, this dream would not work.
Amazing. Can you go briefly into what you brought up earlier, which is judgment, and see maybe like you want to talk about an experience? I know you just talked about God's judgment, but is there a subjective judgment that happens that creates good and evil? Or
Yeah, the subjective judgment is like we really have to really nail this down, that all that we're experiencing is our perception. If you think that you're experiencing reality, like if I look at you, Mike, and I say, oh, I know Mike, I will lose this ability. I will blot it out of my mind, because a judgment will come in from something that I see. Oh, maybe you, I don't know, like you did something I didn't like or whatever, or you didn't do something I hoped for or expected. And the judgment will come in. Oh, Mike is this kind of person. He doesn't care about me, or he doesn't care enough to blah, blah, blah. If I am aware at the level of the fact that there is no truth to this, that this is only a perception, think about it as if you are running a movie in your mind, and you're running this movie in your mind parallel to what you are seeing through your eyes. So you see a tree, and then boom, a movie of a tree starts happening. Yeah, I remember I was under that kind of tree. That thing, it seems innocent enough when you're like, oh, I remember. But what it will always carry with it is some degree of slant. It will either be something positive, like a positive memory, or a negative memory. And you will look at that tree and you will not look at it like a baby looks at it. You will not see it with pure perception. Pure perception means perception free of judgment. You will see it according to your past. And that is the place where all judgment lives. Otherwise, how could we know if something's good or bad if we didn't experience it in the past? And how do we know, what we experienced in the past is good or bad, except that somebody told us? It was, it came from this experience of us picking up these bits of data from our parents, teachers, preachers, movies, media. And suddenly we're like, oh, I'm not so good. I'm not such a good boy, but that came in from the outside. It wasn't intrinsic to our consciousness. We didn't have any sense of this judgment. Yeah, it's very clear. It's like, if I'm pinched, I don't like it. I might cry. I might get away from it. There's very clear that we move more towards things that are naturally, towards things that are life affirming, towards things that are feeling like safe and like food. And we move away from things that feel like, predators and enemies.
Fire, things that burn
yeah,
you.
exactly. And so we have this game going on inside of our mind. When we're not aware of it, it becomes as if the good and evil live in the world, because we have no way. We're basically glued to the movie. We can't see beyond what the movie is showing us. And we think that the movie is God's voice. And this is the biggest downfall of humanity, is that we're listening to our movie entirely based on the past. And we are thinking that it is the truth. And the moment we can start to doubt it, we will liberate ourselves from that entire world, from this entire world of good and evil, and we will behold creation, which is going to be this phantasmagoria of color and sound and light and movement and sensation, and it will keep on going like this at you. And you can sit here and behold it in awe and like, wow, how is this even possible? Then that's a different way. And in those moments where I will hear my judgment about Mike, let's say, back to example, I can see it and I can be like, it's just the phantasmagoria of creation dancing around as a thought. There's got no reality whatsoever. There's nothing to say about what Mike is or isn't in my thoughts at all, because Mike is not my thoughts, is not there. It's not what it is. So how can I be looking at something and trying to figure out what you are if I'm looking at something that's completely divorced from your being? This is the part that we don't see in ordinary consciousness. And this is the part that we're trying to illuminate here in this conversation, to say there is a choice beyond what your mind says.
I love that you use words that I've never heard of in every episode. Phantasmagoria. That's amazing. I also want to point out you use the word twice now, at the beginning and also in this flow that you just shared, which was doubt. And for me, I described the devil as doubt, fear, and delay. And so there's almost like this inherent mechanism in the universe which has this doubt to crack the matrix so that it can reveal itself to itself. It's like the devil's built into that. So yeah, I hope you guys are really enjoying this. We've shared a lot already on good and evil. I hope you guys are getting excited about potentially other episodes where we talk about judgment and stuff like that. We have covered a lot, Boris. Is there anything else that comes to mind that you want to share? If not, I have some quotes that we can choose to either keep in or leave out of this, but they might spark something else, and then we can end it.
Yeah, I would just say let's go to the quotes in a second. And I just really want to highlight this, because for many years I did not get this. It wasn't available. It didn't seem practical. But every problem can be nullified in here, because what a problem is, it's the same thing that we call bad or evil. If you have problems in your life, there is a solution in the midst of this conversation. And maybe this conversation needs to keep unfolding beyond where we started. But even the experience where you say, oh, I have a problem in my life, it's purely a judgment. What you have is a situation. You may not be able to pay your bills. It's a situation. You may have lost somebody you love. It's a situation. It's not a problem. The problem, the moment you create a problem, you separate yourself from it. You basically have something out here that you have no responsibility over, no power over, and it's just there dangling around, but it is purely in your perception. So I really want to invite this, not for this to be just a theoretical conversation, but allow this to be a contemplative experience where you say, hold on, in something that is infinite, which is one, let's call it consciousness, God, source, whatever. How could there be a split? how could there be a problem? How could there be good and evil? How could there be a problem and lack of problem? Try to extend this into these moments and aspects of your life where you do have a problem, like where you do experience somebody being like evil or not good towards you. Even our partners, if we really think about it, like, oh, this trait or that thing that she does, put your awareness in there and see if you can, through your own wisdom, through your own contemplation, just be able to see, what, actually, no, I realize that there is nothing coming at me from there. There isn't something for me to defend against, because all that's happening is the same thing that's happening when I look at the waves on the ocean, the leaves on the trees, the birds singing. There is a happening, there's a situation, there is an unfolding, there is a phantasmagoria. And now the phantasmagoria is my wife. And there she is, and she's sharing her experience, and she wants certain things, and beautiful, amazing, light, sound, color, beauty. I love it. Great.
Lava, fire, everything that's beautifully artistic coming out of this one person. Yikes.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. I think I wanted to just share that, and I'd love to hear what you found for some of these quotes.
Awesome. Boris, I also want to say great job on the speaking to your child. I think that is a very powerful way to frame a question, specifically knowing you, to get an answer that just, I think, helps humanity at its most fundamental level. So amazing share. I do want to clip those into shorts. So we'll be releasing a bunch of shorts if you guys are paying attention to these episodes, so that you guys can consume these nuggets of wisdom that flow out through us, and contemplate them, really. Yes. So yeah, we can choose to keep this in or out. Let's see what it sparks. These are some quotes that I found. Let's start with this one by some guy nobody knows or has heard about, Alexander Suls. Yeah, I'm not even going to try. You guys can just Google what I'm saying. Says, gradually it was disclosed to me that the line separating good and evil passes not through states, nor between classes, nor between political parties either, but right through every human heart and through all human hearts. Yes. The line shifts. Inside us, it oscillates with the years. And even within hearts overwhelmed by evil, one small bridgehead of good is retained. And even in the best of all hearts, there remains an uprooted small corner of evil.
It's brilliant.
It is impossible to expel evil from the world in its entirety, but it is possible to constrict it. He uses the word constrict it, so almost like limit and contain it within each person. Obviously, we've explored some aspects that maybe go beyond this, but this is just one level to absorb good and evil. So basically, saying that it lives in our hearts and it oscillates with time. And although you cannot remove it completely, you can also not get rid of it completely. There's always a bridge of good that lights itself.
Yeah, I want to just share a little bit about this because it's so good. It reminds me of an experience that I had with my friends where we kind of tuned into this experience, and we called it the dark sparkle. The dark sparkle inside of like every being, right? And the dark sparkle is that which is like, it's that service to self sense. It's that like mischievous space. It's that like, but when you acknowledge it, when you know that it's there, it's not dysfunctional.
It's like the ego. It can be healthy or not healthy. Yeah. The ego, sorry.
But the ego, I think, includes all of, the good and the bad. But here I'm specifically speaking about that part because we often fight the downside of our ego. We often kind of like judge it again and like try to get rid of it. And like what this quote is saying, it's beautiful because we cannot. It's actually intrinsic to who we are. And it reminds me of, like if we think about the 12-step programs, all of them say this space. It's like, I'm an alcoholic. I am, an addict. But they say that even though they have not been drinking or having any kind of interaction with any substances for years, could be 30 years. And they will still introduce like, hey, I am Boris and I'm, and so it's like what is recognized by that is that the potential is always within each one of us. And this is why I feel I can relate to to like this dark evil, because I also have done this contemplation where I'm like, wow, if I have everything that I need and I have this like, dark sparkle kink to express my power, I can really relate to it's like, oh yeah, now what if we just make the world our playground? What if we start to play with countries instead of play with like, little bits of I get it. I get it. And it's that space of like how perverted can we make it, in that degree of consciousness. But honoring the dark sparkle is really cool, because it's like to really, instead of judge, fight, pretend like it's not there, this is where it comes out and freaking gets you. And then you end up doing things and you're like, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. Why? It's because you're unconscious. But if we can embrace the dark sparkle and say, yeah, I got it. It's the dark sparkle. What's up, brother? I hear you, dark sparkle. And then as you're moving around and you have this awareness, you're like, oh, I get it. And it's not an inner war. It's just like, oh, I feel that impulse. I get that. Maybe not this time. This time I want to choose something else. You have some choice. You have some awareness. You have some space, versus whenever you try to fight, repress, push it down into your shadow, it will just jump out there and grab you by the face and lead you until you come back to, and you'll realize, holy shit, I did something I didn't want to do.
So good, Boris. Dark sparkle. Yeah, how can you love yourself fully if there's an inherent dark sparkle and you have no empathy or understanding for it, right? That's interesting. That's one of my quotes which you just shared, which is like, knowing your own darkness is the best method of dealing with the darkness of other people. So you have to know that this lives inside of you. It says everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding about ourselves. And then I'll leave us with one last quote, which says, no tree can grow to heaven unless it has its roots down in hell. So
wow. Yeah, that's beautiful. This is what Derek Rydell always reminds me of, is like, he says, the deeper the roots, the richer the
your
fruits.
Background.
Yeah, exactly. Right. The deeper the roots. Do I have roots in here? Kind of. The richer the fruits means like you do need to go down. You need to go down into understanding yourself. You need to go down and feel the downside, not just to try to drug it out, not to numb it out, but get into this experience. This is just a sensation. That's what the Buddha taught. Just sit there and watch your sensations. You realize that is the only thing that's ever been controlling you, is that you are running away from some unpleasant sensation and towards a pleasant one. Oh my God, is that like life? Or is this just like basically like crazy animalistic program behavior until you, yeah. And we start to really, embrace the downside, embrace the dark sparkle. Embrace doesn't mean succumb to it. It means to be aware that it is there. Allow its presence where it is. Don't summon demons, but, okay, here it is. Okay, I got it. I'm okay. I get this. This in me is just like when she feels this way. It's just like when he feels this way. It starts to, like you said, brew this compassion, brew this sense of like, we're all in it. We are fallible human beings. We are under hypnotic spells. We keep on like, being here, and then suddenly we're not actually here. Our eyes are still open, but we're sleeping. Holy crap. What a journey. And then, we can really be available here, even for the sleeping ones, for the parts of ourselves that fall asleep. Yeah, I feel this is so beautiful.
I love that. Let's end with that. That's amazing. I'm so glad, grateful for you, Boris. Thank you so much again for sharing this wisdom. I'm so glad technology can record this. Hopefully one day Boris's child can listen to all of these as well. And I hope you guys enjoyed that. Make sure you like and subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Share your feedback in the comments, share your questions. And we're so grateful to be here with you and to journey through this life together. Namaste.
Namaste. God bless, guys. Take care.